Morning, folks. Welcome to the Cassandra Terry Morning Show. Cassandra Terry, the mindset coach and founder of Manifesting Miracle Makers, rounded up her LinkedIn family once again. First, we've got Brian Smart, Mr. Content and Dadpreneur. He's striking the perfect balance between raising his youngest daughter and creating masterful content. Next, meet Denise Annalise Spiller, the gig expert and relentless traveler and writer. She turns every gig into an adventure. Then there's Jay Pasquale, the storytelling strategist, a poet and voiceover artist. He's weaving tales that'll make you think, laugh, and maybe even change your perspective. Get ready for a show filled with wisdom, inspiration, and the magic of family. Let's welcome Cassandra Terry and the rest of the fam.
Hello. Welcome to the Thursday edition of the Cassandra Terry Morning Show. It's my favorite day of the week. It's the day where we get to focus on gratitude, where we focus on what it is that we are most grateful for. And in doing so, we learn a little bit more about ourselves. We learn a little bit more about the actual power that we have over our circumstances, over our mindset, the power we have over how we show up. Life is going to keep lifing. Things are going to keep happening. And if every time something doesn't go the way we intended, we fold, then we spend a lot of time folding, right? Because this stuff's always going on. But if we could take just one tool, when we talk about gratitude on Thursdays, that is an actual tool that you can use to help expand your emotional intelligence, to help you take control over how you show up, even how you feel about how things are going on around you. We might not be able to change our circumstances. We have to go through what it is that we have to go through. But when we come from a place of gratitude, we realize that even in those difficulties, there's something for us to learn. There's something for us to gain from every single experience. And that's a hard one, especially when you're in the thick of it, when things are going wrong. The last thing I want to do when someone's going through a difficult time is go, oh, be grateful. Be grateful for what's going on. I'm not saying that, but I've lived long enough to know that with my hindsight, my ability to look back and actually assess my life and the things that I've been through, that every one of those things, especially the difficulties, have been the things that have developed me the most. They've been the things that have helped me move from where I am to where it is I would like to be. That's where my evolution, my transformation, my growth, even me really meeting myself and learning what I'm capable of, learning about how strong I am, learning about my resilience. You can't learn those things in the good times. In the good times, you imagine that they're there, but you don't get a chance to actually use them until you're going through something. And I highlight the word, I emphasize through, because we do have those difficult times in our lives, but we don't want to get overwhelmed and get stuck in them. We want to keep moving forward and go through them so that we gain the gift that's on the other side. And our quote for the day really lends itself to that way of thinking. It says that gratitude isn't about what is handed to you. It's about what you do with what you have. And that was said by Asha Tyson. So if you're perpetually waiting for that next thing, that next experience, that next gift, that next fill my hands with something, and I'm going to be grateful, change this thing in my life, and I'm going to be so grateful. If only this, then that. Those if then statements, Brian. If we're looking for that in order to be grateful, in order to be joyful, we will be perpetually waiting and on this up and down emotional cycle of life. We create a mindset where we focus on what we have already and we're grateful for that. It changes everything. We're coming from a place of abundance. We're focused on the abundance and what we have. So we are able to see that more than we see what we don't, because that's where our focus is. I'm focusing on what is in front of me. I'm focusing on what I've been blessed with. I'm focusing on the good in my life. I don't pretend like the rest of it's not there. It's there, but I experience it differently when my focus is different. I can't always immediately change my situation. I have to go through what I have to go through. But it doesn't mean that I can't go through it with lightheartedness, with gratefulness, still maintaining joy, even in the difficult times. I can't think of her name right now, but there was a young lady who contracted AIDS as a child. She might have even been born with it. I think she was born with it, and she became such an advocate, and she was such a light, and she was so joyful, and the things that she did has made that experience, that journey, the funding, the focus, all of those things grew because she lived, right? And because she was one of the ones who suffered with that diagnosis, that illness, she took it and she flipped it on its head, and she showed up in all of her wonder. She was just a joyful person, and she walked so many people in the world through her experience. I think she was maybe early 40s. She just passed away last week. And but what she was able to do with that short time of her life with such a devastating illness is something that you stop and take notice when you hear about it. I remember seeing her as a little child. She was on a lot of the talk shows and things like that because of her attitude, because of her the joyfulness, and she was really intelligent and able to articulate, as a young person as well. And all of that came together, and you just didn't see the focus on the dread of the illness and the things that she had to go through. I have no doubt that there were times in her life where she was really ill, times in her life where she was in pain, or and had all of these different symptoms that she had to deal with. But by and large, she focused on living. I went to school with a girl, Kim. Kim is still one of my sheroes. She died when we were in the 6th grade. And, it's one thing to talk about someone that you see in the news. It's another thing to be up close and personal with someone who lived their life that way. She only lived to the 6th grade. But what a life. She left an impact on me that I will never forget. She had a cancer diagnosis. Um, and she had to go through chemo and all that stuff. And, we're up in age now. So, I graduated from high school in 86. So I don't even know, that was 6th grade. Um, so early 80s, late 70s, somewhere in there. And Kim um, had the cancer diagnosis, and she went through chemo. She lost all of her hair. And then the things didn't work. She had to lose her leg. Eventually, the cancer came back, and she had to lose the other leg. And Kim, with one or with two prosthetic legs, did basically everything that we did as 6th graders. And if you wanted to see the ugly side of Kim, if you wanted to see Kim upset, baby her, treat her differently than the rest of the kids. And she just had no tolerance for it. All she wanted to be was a kid that was treated like all the other kids. She got up and she played, even without either of the prosthetics. She would move around and she would do what the rest of us did. She had those phantom, when she would first lose the limb, she had those phantom itches, and we would scratch a space where there was nothing there until that nerve ending calmed down and she didn't feel like she was itching. It was an experience. But what I remember most is Kim smiling. I remember Kim being happy. I remember Kim playing and doing the stuff that we did, and being really upset if you focused on her illness and didn't focus on her humanity. She wanted to just be like everybody else. The gym had steps that you had to get up. You think Kim was going to allow you to help her up or to carry her up? No, sir, no, ma'am. She was going to take her crutches. She was going to work with those prosthetics, which are so different than what they are now. And she was going to make her way up. She was determined to live a full, healthy, typical kid's life. And that's exactly what she did until she took her last breath. We never saw her. The only time we saw her upset was when people tried to baby her or she felt like they treated her differently than they did the rest of us. But as far as her illness is concerned, that was not what her focus was on. And she lived a really full, rich life until she was no longer here. And she left an impact. She showed us what it meant to be grateful. She showed us what it meant to focus on what you have instead of what you don't. She didn't focus on the limbs that she lost. She focused on the abilities that she still had without those limbs. And she had the best personality. She named them. Back then, the doctors didn't think, or at least in our situation. Now, you have to realize that we were poor people. So it's not like we had the best of the best. But the doctors didn't, and maybe it was just because of each leg was really different, but one was rounded and one was more pointed in the way that they stitched them up after they removed the lower leg. She named them Stump and Spike. And she would laugh and she would talk about Stump was itching or Spike was itching or bring me this or bring me. It was something to behold. Being that I was so young, maybe in my mind, I've blown it all up. I'll never know. But all I remember is a person who was going through something at such an early age that I personally couldn't imagine, wouldn't ever want to go through, wouldn't want to see anybody go through. And I remember most her smile, her determination, her I'm going to do the same things that my peers do. Don't treat me differently. Don't baby me. Don't feel sorry for me is what I think her message really was. Don't feel sorry for me. I'm still here. I can still do stuff. I can still go to class. I can still hang out with my friends. I can still be a kid if you allow me to be. And if you don't allow me to be, you're going to see a part of me that you don't like too much because I am going to push the issue. I'm focused on living. I'm focused on enjoying the life that I have just the way it is. Such an impact that young lady had in such a short time. Because you can imagine sixth grade, how old were we? I don't know, maybe 12 or so. What an impact. I'll never, ever forget Kim. And sometimes when it's hard, sometimes when I'm frustrated about something, I can see Kim and it reminds me and it gives me strength. And it reminds me that, what you're dealing with, it's not the end of the world. You can keep going. You can focus on what you have. She was literally the epitome of focusing on what you have and being grateful for that. So Asha Tyson's quote today is gratitude isn't about what is handed to you. It's about what you do with what you have. Love that. So, Jay, that is what I wanted to share with you guys today. So, I'd love to hear. Um, Let me see. We've got Conchita with us. She said, Thankful Thursday, everyone. Truly grateful for the gift of another amazing day. Absolutely. And you guys that are watching, wherever you are, whatever mode of social media that you're on, in the comments, start to drop what you're grateful for. It gives you the opportunity to solidify it in your mind, to really start to put it out there. And we are going to build a gratitude chain all over social media, just like we do on every Thursday. So as you're thinking, as we're talking, whatever comes up for you, when you have that moment where you realize I'm grateful for this, go ahead and drop it as a comment. We would love to hear it. Satish, welcome from India. I see you out there, my friend. Grateful to have you with us as well. Jay, go ahead and unmic and feel free to share whatever is on your heart.
Thank you, Cassandra. Grand waking, everybody. You know, it- I'm thinking about Deuteronomy, and
Okay.
In the Deuteronomy 28. If you fully obey the Lord your God and carefully follow all his commands I give you today, the Lord your God will set you high above all the nations on earth. All these blessings will come on you and accompany you if you obey the Lord your God. And so, to get to the point, the verse really suggests that recognizing God's blessings is really dependent upon obedience to God, faith.
Hmm.
And by faithfully following his commands, believers are putting themselves to receive blessings
Okay.
that will not only come upon them, but also be with them in that journey of faith. So it really just goes to the importance of obedience and faithfulness as a believer, as your path to recognizing and experiencing the blessings that God has put forth for you. Um, I remember when after the tornado, I was looking for reasons as to why things happened to me. Why did the tornado hit me? Why did it take all my earthly possessions? At least that was the thought at the time. It didn't take away all my
Hmm.
earthly possessions, but that's what it felt like. It
Hmm.
felt like there was a time when the thought entered into my head, and I had to rebuke it though, that I was abandoned, that somehow, some way, God was punishing me and my family. And that was the truth then. And so, how do you move forward with feeling like something like that? And I don't know if I shared the story before, but as we were literally picking up the pieces of our lives, we were picking up what was left that we could take with us, right? We were looking for clothes at one point, and we found our clothes under the rubble. But then we realized that all the clothes had the old school um, fiberglass, um, what do you call that? Insulation.
Hmm.
And it was just covered in it. And we sifted through that, and that's where we found our clothes. And then I was like, really? We're able to find our clothes, but it's under this fiberglass. And if you know fiberglass and you know the old stuff, you can't you could wash that 2 3 times off your clothes and you will still be itching because of it, because it had contact with your
Hmm.
clothes. And so was we I just felt devastated. And of course, as a human being, I asked God why. The crazy part is I got the answer. Because following that,
Mm.
I was looking around for all kinds of things that I could take. And there was all this mud in one particular area. But in the midst of the mud, I saw this book. And I was like, "Oh, that's odd. There's no mud or anything on it." And I went to pick it up, and it was the Bible. Now, mind you, it had rained once or twice before I was in that spot. That's why there was that mud. But the Bible that I picked up didn't have mud, dirt, dust, water from the rain on it. It was pristine, like it was covered under something. But in this particular area, nobody had been there. Nobody had been on this side, and it was in the middle of this all this mud. But somehow it maintained its how it was before the tornado. Like it was on a shelf, really. And that was the answer. And then I looked up and I looked up to the sky and I started to weep because there are certain times that I had that kind of epiphany or feeling that just things are going to be okay. And that day, had gone up to where my sister's house was, and I stood at the top of the hill, and this person drives up. Like there were a lot of people that came around to see the devastation, right? The looky loos, the people that were like, oh, let's go see what happened. And we had several of those come through that day. Several of those types of people just like stopping and looking and that, but this lady took her time to drive up the driveway and then get out of the vehicle. And I was like, and I could see the frustration in my family's eyes that people kept coming. And so I immediately went to greet her, kind of be that barrier for her. Not for, for her. And I said, "Yes, ma'am, can I help you?" And she looked at all the rubble and she said, and the house behind me, she said, "Oh, you know what? Man, I'm so sorry this happened to you. Is everybody okay?" And I said, "Yes, ma'am, we're all fine. As a matter of fact, my family is we're all here." And she said, "Oh wow, you look at that house. Thank God nobody was in it." And I said, "No, ma'am, we were in it." And she gave me a big big old hug like she was family, and she said, "Praise God, you're still here. Praise God, you're still here." And I think I was still holding the Bible at the time. I'm not for certain, but I remember just that feeling like, "Okay, Lord." "Okay, Lord." I had to say it out of my mouth to be able to understand the blessings that I had. And and before she left, she said, "Was there anything we needed? She will come by later and she will drop it off." I said, "No, ma'am, just your prayers, because we don't know how we're gonna get out of this one." And she said, "I'll definitely pray for you." And she said one more thing before she left. She said, "You can lose all your clothes, your house, but losing your life, losing the lives of your loved ones, you are truly blessed." Mm, it still gets me. It still gets me. And I try to remember that always in the face of adversity. There's blessings in front of you. And you just have to realize it and step into faith and think, what do I have in front of me?
Mm.
What's here in front of me? Even in the midst of devastation, what is there in front of me? In your adversity, what is in front of you? What do you have to be grateful for, to be thankful for, to understand that those are actually your blessings? Take that breath and look around. That's it. Thanks, Cassandra.
Whew. Wow. Powerful, Jay. Thank you for sharing that. So many things were coming to mind as you were talking. You had that moment where you felt abandoned and you had to rebuke it. But I just want to point you back to Calvary. There was a moment. Why have you forsaken me? And that's what makes the the Bible so alive. It's not a history lesson. It is being repeated over and over again because Christ chose to take on flesh and to have our experiences. So when we go to him, it's just like the alcoholic going to the AA meeting. You're going to somebody who knows. You're going to someone who has walked the walk. And then you talked about this Bible in the mud and the had survived the storm and it came out pristine. That is a perfect image of Christ. He went through the storms just like we go through storms. And then he went through the ultimate storm of being nailed to the cross on our behalf. He went through the storm. He was knocked in the mud. He was spit on. He was beaten. He went through the stuff just like that Bible did. Yet he came out pristine. No water, no mud, no dust, no dirt. It looked as if, right? It looked as if that Bible had not gone through what everything else around it had gone through. That was your pointing back to Christ. I know you're going through some stuff and I know it's hard. You have that moment where you feel like I've turned your back on, turned my back on you. I even felt that too, Jay. But look at me, pristine, clean, dry, without any markings, anything, because that's who I am and that's who I will always be, which is why you always have a safe place to go. And when your storm is happening, you come to me and I provide you that cover so that you can get through that storm unscathed. You lost your worldly possessions, but there's your wife, there's your kids, here's your testimony. Look how much your storm story put you on a national stage first, even back then, and it's still today leading you to and through your destiny. Nothing is for nothing in our lives. And most people can't, just like Kim having cancer at such an early age, most people can't put themselves in that position and even imagine going through it. And they certainly wouldn't sign up for it. But you today can look back and you can recount that Bible story. You can talk about the lady who showed up and reminded you of your blessings. You can talk about the fact that here you and your family are with not one but two homes. You know, you have been restored. You have been restored. And we can't be restored. We can't have our faith tested and expanded if we never go through anything. And when we have the strength and the transparency to talk about what we've gone through and we still have our joy intact, we've gotten to that place, we see the blessing, we can it's a blessing to everyone else. Kim didn't know she was blessing us. I mean, she was just a kid. She didn't know that what we were doing, what I was experiencing with her at 11, 12, I would be talking about at almost 56, right? But she left an impact. And that's what sharing your story does, storytelling strategists. That's why that is such an important role that you have, because that helps others see that they can get through whatever it is that they're experiencing. You don't compare your storm to the next person's storm, because we're all built different. We're all able to handle things differently. Our process and our progress, it's all different. So you may have a broken leg. It doesn't mean your leg didn't hurt because you are not the one who has cancer, right? You may have had a fire in one room of your house. Doesn't mean that that wasn't traumatic for you because somebody else lost their whole house. So never compare, just like you don't compare your goodness, you don't compare your difficulties to anybody else's either. You just look for, what am I to learn from this situation? What do I get from this? How do I keep moving forward so that the storm doesn't overtake me? It may knock me off my feet because we're human, but we can get back up, and then we can be on the other side of it better than when we went into it. That's the message. That's why you remain grateful. That's why you stay joyful, because it's a temporary, whatever it is that you're going through, mountaintop or valley, it's temporary, because tomorrow's coming, the next day's coming, and each day brings its own stuff. So you just keep going through, keep showing up, keep making the good decisions, right? You don't want to push yourself farther into the mud because you're down. Can you imagine, Jay, if you threw yourself down there and just started beating the ground? That would have been okay, temporarily getting some of that energy out. Okay. But man, you'd be even muddier than you were, right? And so we don't want to make a bad situation worse. So as soon as you can get hold of yourself, as soon as, be mindful of the decisions that you're making, be mindful of what you're focused on. Focus on what you still have. My family is still with me, right? We may not know what tomorrow is going to look like. We may not know how we're going to come through this, but we're still here to get through it. We're planning where we're going to live. We're not planning a funeral. That's something to be grateful for. In that moment, there was something to be grateful for. In the midst of all of that devastation, you could look around and see those eyes looking back at you and see many things to be grateful for. So thank you for sharing that story. Lots of comments coming in. Let's see if I can. My computer is still acting up. I thought it needed a reboot. Well, it did need a reboot, but it's still kind of delayed. So I'm going to get through these as best I can. Let's see. Sonia, welcome, welcome, welcome. Kim Graff says, I was late, but here, and I'm thankful for that. We are grateful that you're here as well, Kim. My mom says we have to go through so that we can get through. So, oh, it's spinning on me now. I almost had you, Mom. Hold on. There we go. Did he go away again? Okay, we have to go through so that we can get through, so that we can be through. Then we can move on to the next. Absolutely. Conchita said, Jay, there's a lesson and a blessing in every life experience. It's God's way of reminding us of his sovereignty. And my mom said, wow, Jay, God will show you that he is with you. Yes, praise God, you are still here. Please continue giving your testimony. It's truly a blessing. I'm so thankful for you guys. You have blessed me again this morning. Conchita said, preach, Cassandra. Let us never forget Calvary. That's the point of this whole experience. Sonia says, I am thankful for so much. And in all caps, she said, blessed. Hello, Timothy. Welcome. Thank you for joining us. And my mom, Aromatic Vision, said, reminds me of the story of Job, who lost everything that he had. He continued to have faith in our God to the point that he said, though he slay me, yet will I trust him. That's it. Tomorrow, I see that you're watching. Glad to have you here. Toya and Carol and Azalea, who we call Chill. Welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm glad to have you guys all with us. Brian, I've gone through the comments, and Jay and I have shared. Are you in a position to share? It looks like maybe not, but I wanted to check in with you. If you're talking, you're muted, Brian. Brian, you're muted. Let's see if he can unmute. He's still talking, so maybe he can't hear me. Hey, Brian, you are muted, so we're not able to hear you. There we go.
Okay, how about now? Mic check, mic check. So, first off, Grand Rising fam, Grand Rising to everyone in the CTMS audience. Today is another beautifully blessed day to be on this side of the grass. Cassandra, you made a comment when you first opened up the floor today about, you know, when you're going through something, you never want to hear, oh, it's okay, it's just part of it, you got to go through it. You may not want to hear that, but it's the honest to God truth, right? Being a PK kid, I was the ultimate PK kid. I did absolutely everything I could possibly do to steer away from God, to steer away from the teachings of my parents and the community at large, all of that. I was the guy. And like Jay, I found myself in some situations. Jay's situation was not something that he caused, and he still managed to feel that sense of peace, that sense of belonging, that sense of faith. For me, most of my situations, I'm an older guy now. I can be honest about it. I caused them, and I still found myself in a place where, like, hey, whether I called it or whether I didn't, this is where I'm at. God still has me. Thank you for keeping your hands on me. And what do we do next? Where do we go from here? Right? Everything that you're going through is for you. Right? There's a saying in the Bible. Again, I can't remember which verse it is, but all things happen for good for those who serve the Lord. If your mind is focused on your God, if your mind is focused on your Creator and doing those things that He's instructed and directed you to do, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't matter. You're looking at it the wrong way. You're looking at it from a carnal perspective. You got to look at it from a spiritual side and know that everything that happens is for you. I'm saying if the train stops you before you get to work in the morning, sit back, take an extra sip of that coffee, sing that verse in that song a little bit louder, and wait for the train to move. Don't let opposition creep in those times and steal your joy. It is so hard to get back from that place of joy when you let the opposition come in and take that from you. Everything that happened, it's happening for you. That's all I want to leave you with today. I'm flying in and out of these lanes, and I might lose everyone again. But always remember, everything that happened is happening for you, not to
you. Love it, love it, love it. Everything that is happening for you, not to you. My mom said, "Come on, Mr. Content." Yes, my husband is a PK also. Yes, Brian, amen. It is for our good. Absolutely. That's a perfect way to wrap it up. Gratitude isn't about what is handed to you, it's about what you do with what you have. And that's by motivational speaker and author Asha Tyson. However, it's easier to get to that mindset when you realize that no matter what you're experiencing, there is a gift in it for you. It's not happening to you, it is happening for you. That had to be an impossible thought when Jay was standing in the midst of the rubble. But when you look at his life now and you can see how that situation has impacted so many people through his storytelling, and it has expanded his faith, it has expanded his testimony, it's giving him the I know God versus I think God will. I know God can and I know he will because he's done it for me. That's powerful. That is powerful. And so that's how we're going to wrap it up with whatever it is that you're going through. It's happening for you instead of to you. So grab a hold of that thought, and it will help you maintain your joy. It will help you to expand your faith. It will help you to keep the gratitude at the forefront of your mind. We are going to be back here tomorrow, guys, at the same time. I still can't believe that today is Thursday. I had to keep saying it over and over in my head as I woke up. This week has just flown by, but it is Thursday. So we will be back here tomorrow for Focus Friday. So we look forward to having you guys all join us again. Grace, I see you, the African Braider. Welcome. Thank you for joining. I think that's the first time I've seen you with us. If you guys want to learn more about yourself and where you are on your personal development and growth journey, go to iwanttosoar.com. I've created this assessment that helps you to figure it out, to really pinpoint where you are on your personal development journey. And then I can work with you to help you figure out what's next. How do you go from where you are to where it is that you would like to be? So there's no charge for the assessment. Take it, get the details, and then let's have a conversation to help you personalize it so that you can use it to expand your day-to-day and keep you in that personal development space. So thank you guys for being with us. We'll see you back here tomorrow, 7:15 a.m. for Friday, Focus Friday.
Thank you for joining us today. Make sure you join us every week, Tuesday through Friday, 7:15 a.m. Central Time for the Cassandra Terry Morning Show. For advertising or sponsorship questions, reach out to Cassandra or any member of the FAM Collective on their LinkedIn profiles. Have a great day, everyone. Thank you.